lot going for Florida Mayhem here as they go on the attack. Shanghai Dragons will go ahead and win that attack round. Zebasai firing from on high. Roshan back on the point right now. That's nice. Dia does get another one. There's one more, but Tavik says, no problem, man. I got the barrage. Gets a couple there, and Logic's with the cleanup.
It's all about red and yellow for our second match of the day. Welcome back to the Blizzard Arena. I'm your host, Chris Puckett, and I am joined at the desk. We got the full squad with us. Zoe is back, our insider, alongside Sideshow and Reinforce. And Zoe, you just got a chance to talk to Fleta, who could be the league MVP once this is all said and done.
Yeah, I think he has great potential to be just that. But generally, I really want to give a shout out to the Boston Uprising. I love what we saw out of them. I loved that they actually gave the Seoul Dynasty a run for the money.
Let's catch everyone up at home. If you missed our first match, here's how it went down. It was Seoul Dynasty taking the first battle 4-0. They are now sitting atop of our leaderboard with a 4-0 match count. Boston in the middle of the pack, currently sitting at 1-2. But our next match, it's going to be between two teams looking for their first victory before we get to see the Dallas Fuel going up against the London Spitfire. A jam-packed day, and it's time to keep this party moving. Let's go ahead and introduce our third team to the stage for the day. Give it up for the Shanghai Dragons. The Dragons coming out, and it's all high fives. These guys have had a tough time, though. They fell to Houston earlier in the week, but even in that loss, we were able to see the squad starting to adapt.
Yeah, it was so much fun to see Undead coming alive against the San Francisco Shock. He was able to pick up the McCree and the Widow on a high level for his team, and that allowed Dia to really go off on those projectile heroes. I hope we're going to see that again today.
So actually, let's talk a little bit about the troubles they had against Houston. We know they've been practicing 10:30 a.m. all the way to the end of the day, every single day. But they still had some issues in their last battle.
They did. They had some issues with their tank synergy, I think, and how they were being supported from their backline. So these are the kind of issues that I think they'll be focusing on and looking to improve on. They know what the issues are. It's just a matter of improving as the season goes on, I think.
And as we look at the starting lineup here, Johnny, it seems that Shanghai is bringing in something new today. They've been switching up the tank role.
They're changing things up, as Sideshow just said. They had some synergy issues with the tank front line, and now they're swapping it up. So they don't have Roshan on the field for this game right here, which is a big question mark because they removed their only main tank. Yep. Put in two off tanks. So are we going to see some Diva Roadhog type of composition? Maybe some Orisa on Dorado here, utilize high grounds?
And it's Dorado as well. It's not Junkertown where you would expect that to happen.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Even stranger.
So we're a bit confused mildly by this squad fielded here. So
excited.
Yeah, excited.
Talking to their management, they said they're still trying to figure things out today. Keep your eyes on MG and Shishu, the two tanks who are working together, as Roshan is on the bench, at least for game number 1. Let's find out, though, who they will be playing against. It's the smallest lineup in the Overwatch League. Give it up for the Florida Mayhem. I love it. Swoosh leading the pony ride to the stage. These guys are coming in at 0-3 as well after falling to the London Spitfire. They dropped to the Boston Uprising and eventually to the Seoul Dynasty.
Yeah, but I have to say, their game against Seoul was actually really strong. I loved what we saw out of Twig on the second map on Horizon. You really showed up on that, Zelda. I love it. I love the confidence. I love the fun those guys are having on this stage. They are eager to get their first win, and as I said, against the Seoul, they really stepped it up. Twig on the Sombra did so much work for them. And also, I think their defense round on Eichenwalde was very impressive.
And they're coming in with a whole lot of team chemistry. You saw this. They've been working on that cohesion.
Yes, and Logix has woken up. I think it's worth mentioning. Logix has really woken up on LAN. He was questionable on LAN before. He brought the game online, but couldn't really show up when it mattered in the tournaments. But finally, he has woken up. He made some plays last game versus Seoul, of course. So maybe if they can keep up the momentum, they can be a bit more clutch and maybe take some maps.
Well, Logix has woken up, but he's moved away from the role that we normally think of him as, which is the Tracer. He was playing much more Soldier 76, much more McCree, Widowmaker. This team is changing before our eyes. Previously, quite a one-dimensional dive team. Now they're experimenting a lot more, and I think as the meta shifts away from having carry Tracers, Logix has to find his new place in the team and has started to adapt by bringing out the other hit scan heroes.
We've highlighted the issue issues on the supports. Keep your eyes on Zebosai and Zuppe today. Can they keep their Mercy alive? Can they avoid doubling up on using those support ultimates? A key to the victory for Florida Mayhem today. But let's start here talking about Shanghai. How important is this match for the Shanghai Dragons, Zoe?
Very. This is their 4th out of 10 matches in Stage 1. Only 3 teams will actually get to the Stage 1 playoffs, and they're kind of running out of time. They need this victory. Of course, the same goes also for the Florida Mayhem. However, Shanghai, they are working really, really hard. Them and their whole coaching staff are doing everything they can, and I do think they have a chance on getting their first win here.
Do you think they can pull it off with the map side show? You were looking at all of the maps that are going to be playing today. How do you think Shanghai compares to Florida Mayhem in our first 2?
So these are good maps for Florida Mayhem, but there's a real chance here that the star power coming out of the Widowmakers in particular from Shanghai Dragons, whoever happens to be playing that, because both Dia and Undead are also 2 great Widowmakers. But Dorado, Anubis, you can really get a lot of value, Ilios as well, huge value out of these big Widowmaker plays. So the key to victory here for me is if Shanghai, either Undead or Dia, have big performances on that Widowmaker.
Yes, and a question mark, how will then Florida deal with the Widowmaker coming out of Dia? Will we see more of the dive composition, which Florida may have flourished with in Contender Season 1? Will we see Twix pick up the Widowmaker, or maybe Logix, who both of them has played the Widowmaker? It's going to be a question mark. Will they run the dive composition? I certainly hope to see Twix Genji.
If you're managing the team, Johnny, what would you tell them to play against Shanghai?
Well, I would like to see the dive composition, which they've won with so many times in the past, but they haven't really been able to adapt to the new meta.
Bring back the dive. Well, Dorado's a good map to do it. We'll see if they can get it done. We're kicking things off. It's the Shanghai Dragons taking on the Florida Mayhem, and here to bring you all the action for our match number 2, it's Sembler with Hex.
Thank you so much, my favorite human being, Puckett. So, this is it. This is it. We are now going to be seeing the match between Florida, between Shanghai. Both of these are 0-3. There's a lot on the line. Hex, I mean, already. We get to cast this match. This is going to be fun.
You know what? I'm actually looking forward to it. A lot of people are like, oh, wow, these 2 teams have to play against each other. I'm like, it's going to be awesome. One of these teams has to win. And I've been saying kind of behind the scenes, and I'll say it publicly now, I think Shanghai has a decent chance on this map, mostly because of the map pool. The desk hit on it. I think this map pool is so good for Widowmaker, and I think Dia is the best Widow of these 12 players on stage.
This is going to be it, exactly. It was touched on the desk. You know, how can Mayhem play around that? Are they going to focus on dive, just ignore Widow entirely, and try and focus on shutting down Shanghai's Widow? I mean, this is a real question. I think, personally, it's going to be a battle of the minds here. It's not so much going to be that individual performance that's going to carry anybody through. It's going to be who cracks first under the pressure, because you do not want to be the team that goes 0-4, losing against the other team who is 0-3.
So last week when we had teams almost about to go 0-2, I'm like, is it a must win? I'm like, a little early. But now, if you really want to get to Stage 1 playoffs, it's getting to be must win. 0-4 almost eliminates you from the Stage 1 playoffs. If I'm Shanghai, I let Dia try to carry me. And you know, it's not a conventional meta, but Undead and Dia both have a very similar hero pool. Widow McCree. I would love to see some Widow McCree. It's their best heroes.
Just play the aim and play to perhaps one of Florida, the chink in like Florida Mayhem's armor, which is Logix. It seems like when he's got nothing to lose, the man goes off. He just starts hitting headshots left and right. It feels like he really feels his game. But when there's a bit more pressure on the team, Logix kind of stumbles. And so I think that's going to be one of the links here for Florida Mayhem that they need to keep an eye on. They need to make sure that Logix has the support necessary to do his job.
And Johnny mentioned it on the desk too. Logix is someone who we kind of questioned in his LAN environment, because online in the contender seasons he was a monster, but then when he got to the World Cup stage, not so much in that LAN environment. So is the stage getting to him? And now, as you mentioned, the pressure is on him because they are 0-3. A lot goes on how Logix plays today, and it's not the best map actually for Tracer, especially when you get to second point, but Logix's 76 has been stellar under us.
Yeah, that's really when we got to see him shine. The doors are open, the action is about to go down, and Undead, I was kind of wondering what was going on there, if he was going to stick on it or not, but he is going to switch off for the Widow in the end. And you have Zushu already trying to push the point forward, and there we go. That's what they were waiting for. Both tanks kind of working together as a unit there for Shanghai, just waiting to see when Florida would try to make a move.
I mentioned that maybe Dia would be pulling the Widow, but Undead, fitting to his name, did come to life in their last match. He has really leveled up over the last week or so, and he's playing extraordinarily. So if this is going to be a game that Shanghai wins, it's going to be on the DPS carries here.
Whoa, and Logic's taking some risks there, stepping out wide into the open, but there was some discipline there from Florida. They could have tried to chase Zushu, who overstepped his bounds, who nearly went down, but instead of committing, they backed off, said we're not going to take any risks. It's a longer run for us to get back here than it is for him. And so let it be and reset for the fight that's coming up now. Swoosh, in and out. That's exactly what he needs to be doing as a Winston, just doesn't want to overcommit.
Really smart on Tavik's Tracer. He's just taking the high ground. It will not let the Widow actually come up top to get the angles, and now they're having a problem pushing in because that Widow can't get any angles. Speaking of which, Tavik shuts down that Widow with a pulse bomb onto Undead, who is simply dead.
And Dia on a mission in the depths, in the bowels, looking to see if he can get in there to use his own pulse bomb, see if he can blow somebody up and start the party here. Not looking like it, though.
I mean, it is wide open. The tanks are way away, so if he can get an angle, there's where their supports are hanging out. He's
see him in the background there. You can see him in the background. This is going to be the commit on the fight. You can see Nano already being used here on Swoosh. He's looking to cleave on the squishies as much as possible. And it doesn't look like Dia has been able to achieve anything with his pulse bomb either. And so this is a fight that Florida Mayhem right now are winning.
Dia goes down, Manitin cleaning up. They did pop the Primal Rage. They used the Nano Boost as well on this full hold defense, but Florida still has some ultimates in the bag. And because they've been playing such a dominant fashion, Shanghai just now getting their ultimates online.
That's a cheeky side. Oh no! Free feel out in the open. That was a cheeky self-destruct just chucked in there as well. Ah, Manitin, that's the one where you kind of smile, you chuckle a little bit. It feels good.
So there's been some questionable plays by the Shanghai supports, and that's another one right there. Resurrecting your Zenyatta, who just died 5 feet out of spawn. Just let him respawn. That means that you have a resurrection for the next fight. Now they finally get some momentum. Manitin goes down early in this fight. Second resurrection comes up, brings up Undead, and it looks like Shanghai's finally getting a footing to push.
Yep, and I'm liking this exactly. MG just sticking on top of Logix, mitigating his tactical visor as well, and so the Valkyrie was still there for Alturing. It lasted a lot longer than it needed to because, of course, that's what Logix is waiting for. That's what he wants to use his tac visor for. Shut down that Mercy as fast as possible. But look at all the progress they've made on the payload now. They're even through the arch. Shanghai may have a chance.
That's the important thing, is that they're through the archway. And in my opinion, they should just ignore this fight. Just keep pushing. They're not even contesting the cart. The game of Overwatch is about objectives. It doesn't matter if you die or get kills. Pushing the cart is the important part of this.
Well, that was a bit of an awkward bit there as well. The support's getting cut off from the main line, and that really means that Florida are going to be able to collapse on the payload and just clean up. You're not getting any heals. You're not going to last forever.
Late pulse bomb takes down Altering, so they have to wait for this push. And meanwhile, Semler, 40 seconds left to get first point. This next fight is the definitive fight for the Shanghai offense.
And man, they've been really on point shutting out Dia. Dia does not seem to be able to get on top of these squishies. He doesn't seem like he's able to really coordinate much with MG to find these picks.
Yeah, they're trying to make a switch here at the last second. Undead goes to the Pharah, which is a decent pick. It's really going to test Logix to see if he can actually pressure them out. And they're just banking on Undead beating Logix on the 1v1, but Logic's about to have tactical visor at the ready.
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as you step out into the open, he's going to have a field day. A lot of pressure on MG and on Zushu as well to get in there to shut him down as quickly as possible, because as soon as that visor is out, and here it is, pumping away, it's getting canceled out completely by Zushu. Great job by the Winston for Shanghai.
They have made some changes on this tank line, and he got the opponent's Mercy, and their Mercy's still alive, and that means 2 more people are going to come back up. Undead, fitting to his name, resurrected. Zushu is still in the Shanghai, is poised to get an extension on this clock and take first point.
Can Tavik keep buying time, though? The rotation is coming in from his teammates, but it looks like they don't... No! Zebasai launches himself in, and they're still trying to delay this payload. They're not out of the woods yet, Shanghai. They need to burn it down to the ground, and Undead trying to do just that, but he eventually gets clipped.
Sebo does take him down to the blaster, and that was an ambitious Valkyrie to say the least, and it is not going to work out. This is so good for Shanghai, because not only are they going to get first point, they have all the momentum in the world. You have to imagine they're going to keep both supports back. Both the tanks are going to try to lock out that front door and make sure that high ground is difficult for Florida to take.
You know, Freefeel just checking out the ults real quick. Freefeel even holding on to his Transcendence, whereas over on Florida Mayhem side of things, both ults have been pretty much reset. So they do have the momentum, they have the edge when it comes to support ults, and I think now getting into the second week, we're starting to get a grip on things. We're starting to understand that those support ults can be the difference maker when it comes to these fights.
Oh, absolutely. Now, this is going to be interesting on second point because it's a little more wide open. This is Widow v. Widow as it needs to be. Tavik has switched over to the Widow. Him and Undead are going to have battles back and forth, but a Widow pick here can open up that high ground and allow your tanks to not have to push up top.
This is where, yeah, Undead needs to take a breath and pace himself here. He's missing a few shots. Needs to just rally and take his time and find that line of sight and trust in it, most importantly.
Well, he's not even going to be pressured, actually. Sorry, but
oh, never mind.
The other Tracer was over there trying to pressure down Tavik. Tavik dealt with that, came back. Undead is now out of it, but they will bring him back to life.
Yeah, so he'll get a second chance at it thanks to altering with the res. Manatee, there's the self-destruct, gonna buy a little bit more time here. Not a whole lot though. Obviously that angle, not perfect for the bomb to go off in. Everybody able to stay alive there for Shanghai. Curious to see when Freefeel is gonna decide it's time to use that Transcendence though. He's been holding on to that for a while now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate as well that altering went down in that fight because they had a very small window where they were gonna have Valkyrie and Florida was not. Now the next fight will be Valk for Valk on the other side of things. Undead has gotten off of that Widow. I think it's a bit of a mistake. I think if they're gonna win this series, it's going to be on the Widow play, but he's gonna be on Soldier 76 instead.
So still some range there, some range DPS to try and find, or perhaps win the duel versus Logix. Logix already sitting on his tac visor though, and so one thing that Shanghai have been doing good is shutting down Logix on the tac visor. He hasn't really been able to have that impact, that hard carry kind of impact with that ultimate, and that is so important. To Vic! He hits one shot, but no headshot, no kill.
It's not really an angle here. No one should even be playing out there. The tactical visor is going to be so important because a Valkyrie will come in from Shanghai. A great job of patience from Shanghai right now, holding on to their Valk while the other Valk is going on.
Whoa, Logix. That's a bit of a spicy one. Will get the support from his Mercy just in the nick of time to stay alive. And this time around, you're not getting away, Zushu. He hunts him down in the end. Gonna put him on his mantle or in the reading room. And this is definitely looking good here for Florida. They've done a fantastic job of stalling things out before they can get to the second point. Shanghai trying to keep in this fight, altering with the Valkyrie, is able to bring a teammate back to life, but it's not going to be for long. There are just too many people here for Florida, and it's a successful first half for the Mayhem.
That is where the cart will stop, and even though everything was set up for success for Shanghai, altering holding onto the Valkyrie perhaps a bit too long, unable to get the full value out of it towards the end, but they were able to grab first. For a moment there, it looked like they were not even going to get through Archway. So the offense did adjust. I still think, though, that even though you got capped once on Widow, keep trying it. I mean, one life does not make a series.
But this is something you mentioned going into this series as one of your win conditions right now for Shanghai, is having Dia on the Widow, seeing as how he seems to be the standout Widow player out of both of these rosters.
Right.
Do you agree with them running Undead on Widow instead?
I mean, Undead did have a nice set last time against the San Francisco Shock. He really proved why he was on this team. They have very similar hero pools, but I think Dia's just a little better at the hit scan. He's the best hit scan hero in China. There's a good reason why he's on this roster. Make any argument you want otherwise. I think you just let him go to town. Dia had a good Widow against Seoul. That says a lot if you can still get done against Seoul. He had good duels against them, so I think that maybe you make that switch, but they were just more comfortable with him on the Tracer. He's a little more versatile.
Well, I think you're going to be happy to see what's in store for you here, Hex, and what's in store for us all. Dia will be on the Widow. Excited to see him hit some headshots here.
Well, a broken clock is right twice a day, so that's my one time being right today. Maybe I'll get another one.
Oh, that's how we live. Yeah, that's how we survive. It's stay sane, Hex. Eventually, we will say something that is correct, at least according to Reddit. All right, so Florida, curious to see what they're going to go with. Logix on the Widow to start things off, and all right, this is clever.
Yeah, switch on both sides, because Tavik was running the Widow on their defense, and now Logix will be running the Widow on their offense. So, you know what? These rosters are kind of similar. Small rosters, their DPS have kind of the same type of pools, and then they switch up a lot, so should be interesting to see the Logix versus Dia battle. I think Dia still is the best Widow on the stage right now.
Now there's going to be an opening here for Logix to take advantage of as they suss out the defense. Shanghai not really changing up, at least in the initial setup. Tanks on the high ground to the left, just waiting to kind of drop down, and it's Manatee who's going to clear out a little bit more territory here for his team to work with. I like that from him. And there we go, finally. Shanghai will decide to take the drop. A little bit of pressure put into the background here, and eventually they will find the kills. Manatee just reigning supreme, takes down Zushu against the D-Mech on MG as well. The defense already crumbling rather, here for Shanghai.
Well, with both tanks down, everyone else has to just leave, because then you're going to get a 6-on-4 on all the squishies, targets, and the supports. And look at this. The tanks are being so aggressive that Mercy has to get out. Still on the chase, though. They're going to get a free push through the archway.
That's a real tough one for Dia. He has to give up the arch. That's Widow's turf. That's where she spins her web and just picks up kill after kill. And yet, without even seeing anybody, he's already having to give ground. This is all a question of whether Shanghai can get out through these choke points. And Dia finding the pick on Tavik. That's a great start.
It's not quite over yet, and that's going to make Dia a lot more comfortable knowing that he will not be flanked by a Tracer. They need to get the rest of this team in here. Self-destruct is going to zone out on this cart. Everyone's got to duck for cover. Undead finds Zupe, but where is the pressure on the cart? They get first points, and no contest comes out from Shanghai.
So quick. They're going to have so much time to work with here, Florida. Over 5 minutes now to just push it around the bend. You're about to see it here, Manhattan. That white rectangle on the ground, that's as far as Florida Mayhem need to push the payload to get the win here on the first map in this series.
And these tanks are doing whatever they want right now. I think the tanks from Shanghai were a little too aggressive on that first point. Know where your bread is buttered. Just stay back and let Dia try to get the damage. He's been the most consistent part of this team. And when they're far forward, they both got picked off. That means the fight's over, essentially. In a rough spot now as Shanghai's Florida continues to push.
Yeah, pressuring the high ground. This is exactly what they need to do. And it looks like Vic, exactly. The team play between the two of them. Tvik flushes Dia out into the open, and Logix does not miss the shot. Pressure is really on here for Shanghai now, and that's a great self-destruct. We'll pick up the kill on Logix. He was low already. But Zebasai and Zupe are still alive.
Able to bring that back with some very good tank play, and that means that Dia is going to be untested here as Logix out of the mix, but a self-destruct in turn from Manhattan. They are bringing this back, not on the retreat just yet. Florida still pushing.
Still alive in this. Dia will try and stall it out just a little bit longer on that Widow. Not the best hero to go close quarters with, though. And Freefail finally decides to use the Transcendence. Once again, just trying to contest, wait for his teammates to resurrect and get back into this fight. But he's not long for this world, and it's looking grim for the Dragons. Already, Florida Mayhem Swoosh is just loving it right now. It's like, oh yeah, man, winning feels good.
You know, despite being 0-3, they were super loose. They seemed like they were ready to play. I mean, there's one thing, 0-3 could be a lot of pressure or no pressure. No one really expects much out of them, and they came out super loose. Looked very good there. Shanghai needs to readjust their strategy.
We'll have to see how it carries out. In the next map, it will be Assault, the 2 capture points. A lot of action there for Widows as well, and so we'll see if there's going to be a change of strategy coming up here for both of these teams, or if they're going to stick to their guns. I mean, it's really looking good here for Florida.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel.